Hey ladies, this is Mocha Mommy here bringing you another video. And in this video, I'm hoping to answer the question, when did educated Black women become the problem? 6 months after the Civil War, the Union soldiers that were stationed in Nashville, Tennessee, decided to turn over their barracks to create an educational institution. This educational institution would be to educate free slaves, enforcing the ideas of literacy and job training so that these new slaves and newly freed Americans can participate in the economy and the rebuilding of the South. The story goes as when they first opened their doors of January of 1866, Black people from all over from the ages of 7 to 70 came to participate and learn to read, exercising their newfound freedom in education. This became the foundations of what we know today as Fisk University. As we look at the pictures of Fisk in its founding days, what is it that you notice? You notice the presence of Black women. Historically, when it came to the first HBCU of Cheney in Pennsylvania, founded by the Quakers, we have always seen the presence of Black women in higher education since its inception in 1837. So when was it exactly when educated Black women became a problem? Was it in 1873 when Bennett College was founded? Now, Bennett did start as co-ed, but it's an all-girls school now. Or when we founded Spelman in 1881. When we look through our history, even before the turn of the century, Black women have always had a presence in higher education. So even when we look at the historically Black colleges or universities that were founded by Black patriarchy, i.e. Wilberforce University in Ohio and Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, that were founded by Black men, what do we see in their graduating classes? The presence of Black women in higher education. So then I ask, when did educated Black women become a problem? Even a generation later, when we talk about things like the Harlem Renaissance, or the affluent communities of Rosewood, Florida, or Black Wall Street, we forget to realize that that Black power couple dynamic is what built Black generational wealth. These were the couples who were on that Barack and Michelle before there was a Barack and Michelle. This was the baker and the banker, the preacher and the teacher, educated Black couples who formed the foundation of the Black economy as we had known it in that time. The Black power couple dynamic was integral in creating Black wealth. Educated Black couples who created the foundation for the autonomous Black economy. So again, I ask, when did educated Black women become a problem? Even when we fast forward to the Civil Rights era, Martin Luther King found his queen among the alumni of Antioch College. Medgar Evers and Myrlie Evers were both proud graduates of Alcorn State University. Myrlie Evers is one of the Black women who can proudly say, I have a PhD, and was very much instrumental in the civil rights freedoms that we enjoy today. And even when we talk about the seeds of Black revolution, when it comes to Brother Malcolm, he married a sister of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority who graduated from Tuskegee. So again, when did educated Black women become the problem? And when it came to the seeds of the Black Revolution, we have to remember they weren't necessarily planted by the boys in the hood, but rather the boys on the campuses of the University of California were very instrumental in the perpetuation of the Black Panther movement. Those seeds of revolution were watered by the same women who were on those campuses. So again, when did educated Black women become the problem? Educated Black women have always been on the forefront of our civil rights. We even have to remember access to education was an integral part of our fight for civil rights. We can't forget that 5 of the Little Rock 9 were women. Brown versus Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas was about having educational access for a little black girl. And who can forget the revolutionary act of first grader little Ruby Bridges, who was one of the first black girls to integrate elementary schools? Again, when did educated black women become the problem? So from Reconstruction post the Civil War, to the turn of the century, to post-World War II, where you had more African-American women and women of all races in the workforce because of the war effort, to the Civil Rights Movement, to the 60s and 70s of Black Revolution, when exactly did educated Black women become the problem? Now enter the 1980s, where there was more female workforce participation than ever before. And that female workforce representation, for the first time, was being represented on television. Of course, we had Elise Keaton of Family Ties, Maggie Seaver of Growing Pains, but the most iconic of all TV moms was Clara Huxtable. Clara Huxtable represented the sensibilities of the Black Boule, but became an aspirational cultural force of change for working class and poverty stricken Black women to show them that there was an opportunity for stability and for family with the realities of getting an education. Now, juxtapose the presence of The Cosby Show and subsequent spin off, A Different World, with what was actually happening in the Black community. The late 80s and early 90s, we were still very much struggling with a crack epidemic and the emergence of urban, quote unquote, hood culture. So here you have an entire generation of Black women who are aspiring to be Claire Huxtable, to build family, to build stability, to escape poverty. But then you have the perpetuation of this very cool hood culture um, that maybe didn't necessarily value education, that didn't really value family, and didn't really see stability in the form of entering the economy, but more so creating an alternative hood like economy. More than feminism, more than welfare, crack had an impact on the Black economy that reverberated through generations. We're still feeling its impacts today. We have to understand that the high incarceration rates due to drug possession, the high rates of violence due to the drug trafficking, and the high rates of mortality among crack babies from addicted mothers and crack users was very much spreading through our country. At the same time, we have Black women trying to escape this through education. Black men all of a sudden stopped looking at the victims and started looking more about at the economic opportunities that selling crack bought us. So kind of instead of having the Dr. Huxtables, we then got a bunch of Dr. Dre's, creating some of the same kind of imbalances that we're seeing today so much through our society. Listen, hood culture is a culture, and you have every right to express or enjoy it. My biggest problem with hood culture, with several others, but my biggest problem with hood culture is that it's eclipsed the 150 plus year legacy that we built of education, economics, family, and empowerment. That's my biggest problem. Also, when we look at the collective of Black men, from mega church to Million Man March, from hoteps to high value, there is still never any systemic long term solution for the realities of what substance abuse has done to ravage the Black community over the last half century. There's really no education and mentorship programs to keep Black youth from getting addicted or entering into the drug trade. There really is no type of support for Black men who are struggling with sobriety that the collective has created. There really is no economic safety net for those who are marginalized and created in the prison system for them to be able to go out and to participate in the economy to build themselves back up and to create family and to and the high recidivism rate in prisons. There really is none of this through the movement that we see of the collective of Black men. So, when did educated Black women start becoming the problem? We started becoming the problem when we saw that we were living in a broken patriarchy and thought that we could use our degrees to fix it. Even up into this day, 2021, the MSW, Masters of Social Work, is one of the most popular graduate degrees held among Black women. Black women are overrepresented in the fields of government service, education, and lower levels of healthcare that sometimes can create stress because of our broken patriarchy, where a lot of times we're the only primary breadwinners in our household, and those careers don't make enough to support and sustain us and our families towards the future, whether you're talking about your elderly or those of you who may have children. Also, educated Black women, we become the problem when we start to create all of these not for profits that don't necessarily line our pockets, but do line college campuses with more Black women. The problem is we're getting the girls out of the hood, but we're not getting the hood out of the girls, and we're not giving them the social skills that they need to be able to maneuver in the corporate world or among certain echelons of the society. Ladies, it's not your job to fix what is broken. Your job as a woman who is in a failed patriarchy is to learn how to win. Learn how to be strategic because these failures of men who failed out of college, who failed to pay their child support, are only going to be angry at you and blame your success for why you're single. Ladies, this is your opportunity to learn how to win. Stay tuned for part 2. This is Mocha Mommy, and I'll see you in the next video.